Morning, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the West End Imps show. As always, I am Jake. I'm joined by Mr. K. Chris, how are we, my friend?
Morning, mate. I'm a bit hoarse. I've got a bit of a coldy lurgy thing that's going around, and I think I shouted myself into a state of illness last night.
Yeah, I don't think you were the only one, Chris, if I'm honest, based on how loud the bank was last night. Not due to Bolton fans or anything like that. Let's get into the team lineup then. There were quite a number of changes from the Boxing Day defeat, which we expected. Going through them in my head, Ben House came in for Tom Hopper, Sorensen came in for Sanders, Ayoma came in for Jacko, and
Mandroyu came in for Vernon.
For Vernon. I think that's all of them covered. Yeah. Expected, wasn't it? Because we were there for the Boxing Day defeat, so I apologise. There was no video about that. I wasn't feeling too good like Chris is now. But that was to be expected, wasn't it?
I think so. Yeah. I was maybe the only one I was surprised. I didn't think Vernon played particularly badly at Burton, so I just imagine that's going to be quite a rotational thing that we'll see across the rest of the season. Mandroyu and Vernon. But yeah, I was personally really pleased to see Sorensen and TJ back in the side. I think, and I'm sure we'll talk about their individual performances, but it definitely felt to me like they had points to prove, and they absolutely proved them last night. But yeah, I wasn't overly surprised with the starting lineup, to be honest. It looked a strong, we're in a good position, aren't we, with players coming back from injury. We have got quite a bit of depth in the squad to be able to rotate and make changes. We needed to make some, I think, because of the lacklustre display at Burton, to say the least.
Yeah, I think that's being too polite on the players. I think they were slightly hungover from Christmas Day, which I don't think they'd be the only ones. But obviously, game started fairly brightly. I think Michael Horton said it to Mark. The counter press especially looked very good to me. It's been great all season. The likes of Diamond pressing, the likes of Housey pressing. I think Ben House is such an intelligent footballer. The way he dictates where the defenders put the ball. Ultimately, first 10 minutes we were sort of on top. We get the reward. Slip ball down the side of the defence from a free kick from Danny Mandroyu. Really good idea. Wonder where we've seen it before. Into Ben House, who it's a really good finish. I don't think he'll get the credit for the finish. I think Danny will get the credit for the free kick, but it's a really good finish past a really good goalkeeper. I utter the same words to you now, because as I did to when I walked back to my seat. Matt Green and Neil Erdley, exact same carbon copy, but we went 1-0 up. That was a great start to the game, wasn't
it? It was, yeah. Like you say, the high press has been really impressive throughout the season, and just a really cleverly worked goal, and obviously one that had been practiced and discussed, because in the post-match interview, Mark Kennedy said that they'd instructed TJ to make a run, which drew the space for House to go into. And as we were watching it, we could see House making that run into space, and we were just like, just slide it in, and he slid it in, and it is a great finish. And you're probably right, Mandroyu will get all the credit because of the quick thinking to lay that ball into him, but it's an exceptional finish. And there's a still image, isn't there, of the keeper being about a centimetre away from saving it, which shows you those fine margins. But great start, great opening 20 minutes for me. And then it kind of, for me, felt a bit weird that we seemed to go to a back five flat very quickly after the goal. And that just invited Bolton on for the rest of the half and gave them a foothold. I felt they were really looked shaky in defence, that opening exchanges, that first 20-25. And I felt they were a little, we could have pushed them on and gone for that second goal, because they really didn't look comfortable with that high press, with, particularly Ben House, like you said, exceptional defending from the front performance throughout the season. For us, I think it was a good half, but I was a bit I suppose, a little bit disappointed or surprised that we retreated after the goal, when I felt we could have really pushed on and really gone for them.
Yeah, I would agree. I think Bolton, that's probably one of the worst 45s they've put together in quite a while. They're a good side, Bolton, but away from home, they were clearly rattled by the way we were playing, which is a good thing for a side like us. We'll come to one thing that stopped us in the game. We'll come on to the next thing. Mark and TJ obviously couldn't come out of it in the post-match pressers because they'll get fines. But that little man, the little midget wearing yellow in the middle, Chris, we could literally chat here for maybe half an hour on the decisions that he got wrong. I don't think he was helped out by his officials, his linesman. There was one in the first half that was a 50-50. I thought Regan Poole was fouled that went the other way. Ian Evatt starts trying to influence the game. And ultimately, I think that's what happened. I think the Bolton manager was in the head of the referee and the linesman because that linesman was pretty close to the away dugout. And ultimately, Bolton got a lot of decisions. I spoke to a few Bolton fans through Discord and things like that. They felt the referee was pretty kind to Lincoln, saying we could have had more than one player sent off. I completely disagree for reasons that are pretty obvious. What did you make of the man's decisions in the middle? I thought arguably one of the worst refereeing performances I've seen for a long time.
It was one of the worst officiating performances, and I'm including both linesmen and the fourth official that I think I've seen as well. Because it was the Bolton bench were refereeing that game, and like you say, the Regan Poole, that's 50-50. The first Joe Walsh yellow card, as they spoke about after the game last night on the Hope and Glory, if you book in Walsh, you've got to book the other player. And the yellow card to our bench, which I think went to Butterfield. When the Bolton manager was encroaching on the pitch, I think at least twice he came onto the pitch. Their bench were up and running and, getting into the linesman and the fourth official. It was just really, really poor, really inconsistent. And particularly the second half, the ref completely lost control of the game. And that is incredibly dangerous. I've had an exchange with a couple of Bolton fans as well last night and this morning who calling us out for being dirty and aggressive. And they, I don't think we were overly aggressive. And it's a physical contact sport. Whatever way you look at it, football is a physical contact sport. And there are going to be situations where players collide, where there's 50-50 balls. I would rather we going in for that and being a little bit physically aggressive than doing what Bolton did, which was trying to cheat, cajole and coerce the referee into decisions that he didn't need to make throughout the whole game, because they were diving, they were rolling, they were feigning injury. And as soon as they saw that they'd got the decision they wanted, funnily enough, I'm not actually injured. It's a miracle. I can get up and take the free kick myself. And that, for me, is worse than being a physically aggressive team, because it's basically cheating.
Do you think, Chris, because we saw Bolton do it last night, and obviously it's got them a point, because ultimately, without the help of the referee, I don't think they get the point last night. Do you think that maybe, like we said, we saw Bolton do it, almost every single decision, they had maybe 5, 6, 7 players straight up to the referee, straight up to the linesman. Do you think, and I know it's not in the correct spirit or anything like that, do you think we perhaps need to get a little bit better at doing that sort of thing in order to try and make games go our way? Because clearly it works. We saw last night that it works. Do you think that because when an opposition player's been sent off or commits a really bad tackle, I don't see the majority of our team running to the officials, and that is a massive credit to Mark Kennedy and the staff. Do you think we need to start doing it if we want to try and stay in a game like that? So if we'd done it last night, I think we might have got more decisions than we didn't, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's a real difficult one, isn't it? Because I do think it's cheating. I think that maybe the term to use would be being a bit more streetwise.
Yeah.
There are times when, for example, Jack Diamond going down the line, getting a couple of defenders coming into him, and he's having contact made on him. Now, there's a difference between being fouled and going down because someone's brushed past your shoulder. And I think that's about street smarts. I personally would rather not see that in our team. I really don't like players surrounding the referee. I thought they'd put a rule in place a few years back that you couldn't, and if you did, you'd get a yellow card.
Yeah.
But that never happens. But equally, the 6 or 8 second rule with the goalkeepers never happens either. So
No.
I think a little bit more street smart, but certainly not where we're surrounding the ref and demanding decisions be made, because that disempowers the referee, and that's when referees lose control because they're too influenced. And I think if you look back last night, and I would encourage Bolton fans, certainly the ones that I've had an exchange with, that have basically said there was nothing wrong with the ref and our lot were horrendous and our bench were horrendous, to actually look at the detail of what their bench were doing, because it was awful. And for their manager to have not been given any kind of disciplinary action for coming, you can't come on the pitch as a manager. And I'm sure he did it twice. He certainly did it once with the Regan Poole tackle. So yeah, I think it's a bit of a loaded conversation and loaded question, I guess. I wouldn't want to see us being in the face of the referee all the time. I think a captain has the right to question, and that should always be an opportunity for captains to do. But I don't like to see swarms of players around refs. But equally, I do think there are times we could be a little bit more street smart. Hopper, for example, he is so street smart, isn't he? Because he'll win a free kick. But it's not because he's diving or cheating. It's because he's noticing, right, I'm going to get bundled into the back as I try and win this header. So I'm going to stand up strong. As soon as that player touches me, I'm going down. That's different to what we saw last night, in my opinion.
Yeah, we'll talk about the goal and then the red card together, because I think they come together quite nicely. The goal, I think Mark said it, I don't think we were helped by the officials with the really long break before the corner was taken.
Disrupted us a bit, didn't it?
I think that was to book Danny Butterfield. I can't remember too much. But there was a big break in between them winning the corner and then them taking it, which I think probably just flicked our concentration switch off.
Yeah.
I've watched it back. The lad, to be fair to the lad who scored the header, it's a great run. It's a good header. Can we defend it better? I think yes. I won't name players. I don't name whose man it was. I know whose man it was, and I'm sure they know whose man it was. And let's be honest, he's the guy who it is. He's been one of our best players all season. So you can't criticise a really good run, a really good header. I'll go on to the red card. Like you said, didn't think the first one was a yellow card if he's not booked there, man. Second one, no complaints. Clearly, Joe Walsh has got hold of the player's shirt. But also, just a huge amount of credit to the lads that defended pretty much that entire last half an hour like a training exercise. And there was only 1 point in the second half. I think they nearly scored right at the end. But apart from, to defend so brilliantly for half an hour, 10 men against one of the best teams in the league. They have 5 strikers on the pitch, Chris, at any one time. It was ridiculous. And I just think that the defence, and I think it comes from the front, doesn't it? I think the whole team deserve a huge amount of credit.
Absolutely, yeah. Real resilience, real togetherness, real fighting for the cause, what we all love to see. And what we absolutely didn't have at any point against Burton. And I guess that's that, for me, a huge frustration is that lack of consistency. If we can do it yesterday, we did it at Oxford. We've done it countless times this season. We've shown that real resilience, digging deep and bodies on the line. The goal, probably should have been defended better. But like you say, it's a decent run and decent goal. I don't think as a result we can have any complaints. I think 1-1's probably a fair result. I think with a different referee, possibly we do win that game. The red card, it's so disappointing that a player of Walsh's experience on a yellow card is tugging him back when he goes past him. It's more dangerous to do that than it is to say, right, okay, I'm not going to do anything. Someone else needs to pick him up because I can't get myself sent off. If he hadn't been on a yellow card, we'd all be applauding him for taking one for the team. But I was really disappointed, given the nature of the way the game was going, with the refereeing and the officiating and the kind of tempo that Bolton came out in the second half with, that he made that decision to pull him back. I know it's probably instinct and it's probably nothing that he's thought about, but yeah, really disappointed given his experience. And he'll be a loss. You know, he's going to miss a game, and you know he's a great defender for us. So yeah, I think overall though, on balance, 1-1. Given the fact they had 12 men and we had 10 for pretty much the whole second half, a good result for us, to be fair.
We'll move on to man of the match. I'll ask you who for yours first because I forgot last time. Who's your man of the match last night, Chris?
I'm going to give it to. I think I'm going to just lean towards Sorensen. Like I said at the start, I think both him and TJ had a point to prove, and they proved it in spades for me. I thought they were both outstanding. But Sorensen had a lot of energy and really was chasing left, right, up, down, and didn't. You know, and I think it was mentioned in the post-match last night on the radio. The fitness levels, you know, we didn't see anyone kind of blowing out their arse or, you know, crouching down, getting cramped, nothing like that. And Sorensen epitomised that for me for the whole match. You know, I thought he was really good. TJ was outstanding. Mandroyu first half was excellent. You know, they were all excellent defensively in that second half. But yeah, I think Sorensen for me stood out.
I gave it to Sean Rowan. I thought it was brilliant. At left wing back, I thought it was fantastic. He come up against Afolayan, who's a pretty good winger at this level. Didn't really get past him at all.
I'm just gonna. Sorry to interrupt you, Jake, but I do just want to say one of the funniest and weirdest things I've seen was when the fans in the co-op stand towards the end of the game were kind of goading Afolayan a little bit for being a bit of a diver, and he turned around and he kind of invited us for some cunnilingus, and that was just the weirdest response I've seen in a game of football.
Yeah, he's definitely a talented footballer. I've said to Bolton fans, if he was able to stay on his feet more, I think he'd probably play in the Championship at this point. But for me, Sean Rowan, excellent at left wing back, and then when he was asked to move into centre back, I thought he was equally as commanding. And it's just hard. It's just so difficult to remember. He's 19. He's played 1,700 minutes this year. He's been in and around the first team squad for best part of 2 years now. And you can tell that he's going to have one hell of a career. Football League, Premier League, we don't know. But one hell of a performance from Sean last night. So pat yourself on the back, Sean. Treat yourself to a happy meal. Life's good. But that does bring another episode of the West End Imps Show to a conclusion. Thank you for everyone for joining us. Please remember to like, comment and subscribe as we are trying to reach 1,000 subs on the channel. Wishing our viewers, I'm sure this is on behalf of me and Chris, a very happy new year. We will see you down the bank on Monday for the visit of Ipswich Town. Another really, really big game. One that we're very much looking forward to, though. Chris, any final words?
No, mate. You've said it all, summed up beautifully. Happy New Year. Stay safe and keep the peace on the streets.
And we'll see you at the bank on Monday. Up the Imps.
Up the Imps.